All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up Demo 01. So here we have some text. Wow, that's good. You will notice right away that I may have misspelled demo, so we can go ahead and edit that. We know we can edit it because we can click on it with the type tool. We get our little blinking cursor thing here, and I can hit the backspace and get rid of that additional letter M. So you can also tell that it is, throw this guy in there. You can also tell that it is still live type if I go down here to my layers menu, and you'll see that there is a special type layer there. It has letter T on it, indicating that it is not a pixel layer, it is specifically a type layer. I can also get to editing this by going down to that layer and double clicking on it. That will select all of that text, and just like any other layer, I can turn it on and turn it off. But let's go ahead back here and correct it. That's great. So my goal here is I am feeling whimsical. I would like this to look like Swiss cheese by putting some little cutout circles in those letters. I know, pretty awesome. So to do that, right, just a layer, right? So I'm just going to grab my eraser, hit E on the keyboard, come up here. My eraser is tiny for some reason. I'm going to make it kind of big, and oh wait, I can't erase my layer. What's going on? So again, remember we talked about the difference between vector and raster, right? Raster is little pixels, little squares. Vector is like the paths that you might make. It's a mathematically defined shape. You cannot edit the pixels of a vector because it don't got no pixels. So I can't erase little squares in the letter demo because there are no little squares. So let's go ahead and fix that. So the way that we can do that, there are a couple of places we can do it. I can go here to that type layer, right click on it, and I should have a rasterized type right down there at the bottom. I can also do it up here in the type menu, rasterized type layer. Either one of those will work. I'm going to do it up here, boop, and you'll see now if I look at that layer, now it looks like any other regular pixel layer, and if I take that eraser, I can indeed make it look like Swiss cheese. Ah, the whimsy. Oh my gosh, just so good. Okay, now the problem with this is that once I've done that, I can no longer edit the letters. So had I whimsically made it look like Swiss cheese and then only then realized, oh my gosh, demo isn't supposed to have two M's in it, I would have to start over. So if you are working with type and you need to rasterize it, I really recommend not doing that to the last possible moment. There are other ways that you can edit text as far as like visually editing it that will still leave it live, right? Still leave it as vectors. The main reason we would want to rasterize text is if we are sending it to somebody else who we think might not have that font and doesn't need to edit the text. We don't want them to open it up and like change the font to something else by mistake. Also, if you're like, oh, I'm sending my will to my ungrateful children, right? You could rasterize it, and then it would be harder for them to alter the terms of your will But don't make a will in Photoshop. That's just stupid. If you did want to do a similar effect and leave the text still editable, I'm going to go back to the very beginning. You can, with a type layer, still take that type layer and mask off bits of it. So I could hide parts of those letters by using, sorry, the fire department's coming for me. Right, using a layer mask and black paint, and doing that way. Goodness. Right, so I could do all of that editing and then come back and still do that. Now, the thing that you'll notice is that when I edit the letters here, right, those chunks that I've cut out are cut out in the layer, not in the individual letter form. So if I make an exciting shape that I really like aesthetically, and then I edit it, right, it's not going to move those shapes with each of those letters. So, right, trade-offs. Try not to rasterize, but knowing how to do it is important. And remember, we can always do that two places. One, type, rasterize type layer. To click on that layer and right-click or control-click, go down here to rasterize type. And that will turn it into pixels that you can then manipulate just like you would the pixels in any other image. Second thing we're going to do, so let's go ahead, you can save that demo file. I'm not going to, but I've already passed the class, so it's cool. I'm going to open up my second demo. There are two files, Skyline text and Skyline image. I'm going to open up both of those. That looks familiar. And boom, here we go. Exciting text right there. So with this Skyline text, we can see if it's live. Yes, it is. If I go over here and look at my layers, right, that has that little T because it is a type layer. If I grab my type tool by hitting T on the keyboard, I can click on it here and do things like change it from bold to bold oblique, right, any of that stuff. I'm going to leave it the way it is. That seems fine to me. What I would like to do is I'm going to do I don't know, fun thing. I'm going to get out of having that selected, hit escape. I'm going to go to my other layer, the Skyline image. I'm going to select all and copy, so Command A, Command C, go back to Skyline text. I'm going to paste that in. So you can see, right, I have a new layer coming in there. I'm going to call it Skyline pixels. Right, already I can tell that was a much bigger image that I just dropped in here. So I'm going to shrink it, Command T for free transform. Come up here and grab this handle. And I'm going to hold down Option to pull it in toward the center instead of pulling it in, if I let go of Option, right, toward the opposite corner. Option does it like that, which is helpful. So I'm going to scale it so that it just covers all of that type. Hit return to commit to that. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to clip by holding down Option and clicking in between those two layers. I'm going to clip that graphic to that text. And what that does, which is kind of fun, is it only shows the graphic in the area where the text is present. So, right, you can see there's Skyline, and it is only showing me the graphic within the letter forms of that word. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to, again, still on that skyline pixels layer, move it around, and I can scale it a little bit. What I would like to get is those people showing up in those letter forms. Pull this down a little bit. Okay. Hit return to commit. So I was able to take that image, drop it into those letter forms, and get something out of it that is kind of fun. So one of the things that you'll need to do in your homework is combine a word and a picture where the two have related content. So this is obviously a skyline, and both the word there is saying skyline, and the picture is depicting in some way skyline. So that would be great, and it's still live text, so if you wanted to, you could edit that to say Rome. That's exciting. And come back in here and move her around a little bit. So try and get something that looks Rome-esque. I don't know. Skyline was better. Okay. So again, that's an edit that you can do with live text. That's going to be something which you will need to do in the homework. You can also, we were free transforming that particular layer. You can also do free transform on the text layer. So if I come down here and grab the text layer, select the text layer, and Command T free transform, right? I can, if I hold down Shift, distort it a little bit. I can scale it up and down. I can rotate it. Bunch of stuff in there, and it is all still live text. So those are additional options that you have open to you if you want to go ahead and edit it, and you'll see that it is still right there, totally live, very exciting text. The other thing that you'll notice, and I think this is kind of strange, is that the adjustments, the distortions, the transforms that we've done, if I go to my character palette, and again I can get the character and paragraph ones up here, they aren't really reflected here, right? So I can change how tall or short my letter is, right? But when I did that with transform, that number didn't change here. It still shows it as 100%. So if you're doing something where you need to have a bunch of type be the same, right, it all be the same level of distortion, you should really do it numerically here in the character palette and not do it just by eyeballing it. If you're just doing one, then you can eyeball it. That's totally fine. But just to keep that in mind. All right, so that was exciting. Let's go on to another bit of type. You can go ahead and save the Skyline demo, or whatever yours is currently saying. I'm not going to save it because I don't care. I'm not going to save that one either. Not going to save that. I'm going to make a new one. So what I want here, so when I created that, it did it with my clipboard size, so it's much bigger than previous. I'm going to do it again. New, document size, default Photoshop size. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is look at another way to edit text. So made a new document, grab the type tool, right, drew that text box, it's filled with lorem ipsum. I'm going to type in some new text in there, and I'm going to use the slider to make it bigger. Cool, right? So that's a great way to be able to eyeball it and still have a numeric result. It's just using that little slider there. So one of the things that I would like to do is transform this text visually. So there are a couple of ways to do it. You can go up here to the contextual menu and click this little T on the top of the hill. It pops up a warp text dialog box and gives you a bunch of presets. So these are, I don't know, I feel like they're just sort of like things that people like to do. All of these text manipulations are something which a little goes a long way, right? They can get super cheesy super fast. But I just want to show you how they work. I'm going to set it to flag as a default, and then I'm going to change my horizontal and vertical distortion. I'll leave that alone. Okay. So now we have something that looks very pennant-like. That's very exciting. And yet, it is still live text. So I went to try and type the word warped, but I couldn't because it ran out of space. That is, right, obviously an issue. One of the things that you are going to, experience is that because Photoshop is not the world's greatest type adjusting thing, planning out where you need to put the type beforehand will help you out a little bit. I can still go in here, select all, make it a little bit smaller, and will that fit? No. There it is. There's the D. So it had gone on to another line. Select all again. The other thing to note is that you do need to have your text selected to be able to edit it. If I've just clicked on here and changed my font size, it doesn't do anything, right? Because I'm changing what I'll get if I hit the next letter. I'm not actually setting the size of any of the letters that already exist. Get a little bit more vertical. Okay. All right, so I've got this exciting banner-shaped text, and I'm going to show you one more thing that we can do with it, and that is apply effects. So again, right, too much looks super cheesy, but if I have my image selected here and I go in my layers palette down to FX, down here at the bottom next to the Japanese flag, I can select from a bunch of different options, and I'm going to first throw on a little drop shadow. So that pops up this layer style dialog box. You'll see there's a whole bunch of different options on here that you can select, and because I hit drop shadow, that's the one that's checked. Whichever one I have selected, right, those are the controls that I'm going to have. So if I have drop shadow selected, I get those. If I have drop shadow checked, but I've clicked on something else, right, those are the controls I'm going to get. So if you're like, wait, drop shadow is checked, why can't I control it? Make sure that drop shadow is not simply checked, but also selected. I'm going to turn that one back off. So drop shadow, right, again, the best way to figure out these things, play around with them a little bit. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a drop shadow on there. Cool. And FX can be stacked, so I'm also going to go up here to the one I clicked on before, Inner Glow. Click on that. This is a way to get a shape inside. You can also do an outer glow where you get kind of like a neon glow. That's kind of fun. You can select whatever gradient you want. You can also make a custom gradient, which is what I did for that rainbow one. But just choose any of the standards. And you can again play around with how it is rendered. So these are, again, right, still giving us something, hit OK, that is live text. There we go. So I can still edit it as much as I want. And once I commit to that edit, it will pop back to having all of its effects. You can come in here, you'll see those effects underneath that type layer, and you can turn them on or off the same way that we could with effects that we had applied to a smart object. So this is something that is, again, little goes a long way, but it's one of the ways out there to manipulate type and may be helpful to you in Project 3. So I'm going to go ahead and save this guy. Just want to make sure. Yeah. Go ahead and save this guy. I'm not going to do it. And we'll move on to the last demo, which is working with type along a path.